Good evening, everyone, and I want to give a special thanks to my IME lecturer for giving me and my group the opportunity to speak today regarding the impact of COVID-19 towards our Malaysian economy. So, I am the group leader of this group, and my team members are Goh Hong Han, Lau Shunze, Sean Chong Wei Jun, and Yeo Tian Zhen.
Okay, what is coronavirus? Coronavirus is also called as SARS-CoV and also SARS-CoV-2 or also called as COVID-19. The first case has been found in Wuhan, South China seafood market on 12 December 2019. Chinese scientists has isolated the unknown virtual samples from the infected person and sequence its genetics using the next-gen sequential tools to study about the virus. After they studied, they found that the virus has 96.3% of genetic similarities with the Yunnan bat coronavirus, is also called as RATG13. The similarity is almost says that the 70% of the homological with severe acute respiratory syndromes such as shortness of breath.
How it all started in Malaysia. So we know it started in China, in Wuhan, way earlier. But then the first recorded case in Malaysia was on the 25th January 2020. All right, and this recorded case was traced all the way back to three Chinese nationals who previously had close contact with an infected person in Singapore. Alright, so these three Chinese nationals had travelled into Malaysia via Singapore on the 24th January 2020, and they have already had contact with the infected person and they brought it to Malaysia. Alright, these three Chinese nationals were treated in the Sungai Buloh hospital in Selangor, Malaysia, and this was when our government MOH decided to quickly devise SOP for the management of COVID-19, and we had 34 hospitals who opened up their hospitals for the COVID screening centres. Alright, so but the first recorded Malaysian case was a 41-year-old man on 4th February 2020. The 41-year-old man recently returned from Singapore as well, but then he started developing fever and cough. Right, and he was immediately quarantined in the Sungai Buloh hospital. And on that same day, his sister was reported positive for COVID-19 on 6th February, which is and she was quarantined in Sultanah Maliha Hospital in Langkawi, and she was the first Malaysian COVID-19 patient who contracted the virus via local transmission. However, it only began to go out of control during the Sleep Petaling cluster, which was held from 27th February all the way to 3rd March, and it was attended by 16,000 people, where 14.5 thousand people were Malaysian and the remaining were foreigners. This religious event has caused the COVID-19 to go out of control to an extent which the few weeks after the event, Malaysia has recorded the highest number of positive cases in COVID-19 in Southeast Asia. And on 12th March 2020, WHO classified this COVID-19 as a pandemic because it spread rapidly to other countries. So, how did COVID-19 impacted Malaysian economy? We know that COVID-19 is a pandemic now, and in every pandemic, it will affect economy in a global scale. So, it impacted the global economy through the global supply chain, through bankruptcies, plummeting stock markets, as well as unemployment. All right, but in Malaysia, it affected the manufacturing sector. In the manufacturing sector, where aside from getting hit with material disruptions, Malaysia faced a crisis for manufacturing commodities such as oil and gas because the global oil price plummeted significantly during 2020. And then another sector in Malaysia is tourism. Tourism was hit the hardest because travelers were forced to postpone their trips. They cannot come to Malaysia. We Malaysians cannot go out, and this was a biggest loss in Malaysia because Malaysia is the third most popular Asian travel destination. This reduced our GDP. As you can see in the picture here, our GDP for services, manufacturing, mining, agriculture all reduced in 2020. You can see the negative, it all went down significantly, and our GDP growth went down significantly until negative 2.0 in 2020. Finally, the value of ringgit. This happens because investors were panic selling. Okay, they were panic selling in order to avoid trading in the current market because all the market were plummeting. All right, and the fall of tourism as well as the decline in the oil prices reduced the demand of our ringgit.
My name is Yeo Tian Zhen. Today, I will present about MCO. What is MCO? MCO is called Movement Control Order, which implemented to cease physical social activities in the particular regions to combat pandemic. Unfortunately, it does not only combat pandemic, but also economical wealth as well, as MCO is prone to demolish our economical foundation by suppressing social activities which is of primary necessity to many business in Malaysia. How does MCO started? It was first started with 3 Chinese citizens came in Malaysia through Singapore in 25th January 2020, followed by a religious event took place in KL from 27 February to 1st of March 2020, which attended by estimated 16,000 people in Malaysia. Effective and immediately, the first MCO was implemented due to the stark increase of COVID-19 patients due to non-compliances to SOP among people throughout the period since the first MCO discontinued. What rule does MCO enforce? The MCO basically prohibited the movement and mass assembly nationwide. It barred interstate and international trips, restrict industrial and educational activities, with exceptions of some essential sectors. How MCO affect economy? It was estimated about 750 million ringgit lost each day and 63 billion lost during MCO period. It is mostly results from the restrictions in tourist sector, most small and medium price enterprise, aerospace sector and transportation sector. Furthermore, it was estimated the second round of MCO had dragged Malaysia's gross domestic product GDP growth by 0.7 to 0.9 percentage point this year. Worst of all, employment rate in Malaysia rose to a maximum of 5.3% in May 2020 before condensed to 4.6% and 4.8% in September and November 2020 respectively. Apart from that, many businesses are inclined to hire foreign labor instead of local labor due to increasing productivity to cost ratio. All in all, there were estimated to have 15.2 million Malaysians without income and the numbers are expected to be more.
Hi, I'm Sean, and I'm going to present you what is CMCO. So the full name of CMCO is Conditional Movement Control Order, which was introduced from 4th May to 9th of June 2020 during the second quarter of 2020. During the CMCO, only selected economic sectors are allowed to operate in controlled manner, and Malaysians are allowed to travel for emergencies only. So the Malaysia's GDP contracted 17.1% from a marginal growth of 0.7%. The performance for this quarter was the lowest recorded since the fourth quarter of 1998, which is negative 11.2%. On the production side, all sectors recorded a negative growth with the exception for agriculture sector. As we all know, one of the primary industry and service sector in Malaysia is tourism sector. Due to the travel restriction and closure of national borders, it resulted in little to none tourist arrivals in Malaysia from May onwards until today. On the construction industry side, all construction activities slowed down in the second quarter of 2020 due to the closing in construction activities during the implementation of Movement Control Order, which is MCO. The decline was contributed by civil engineering, residential buildings, non-residential buildings, and special trades activity subsectors in the second quarter. And last but not least, COVID-19 pandemic had influenced business operations, which in turn impacted the overall labor situation in Malaysia. This was reflected by higher unemployment rates throughout the first half of 2020, with the highest recorded in May 2020, at 5.3%, average at 5.1% in the second quarter. But on the bright side, the unemployment rate decreased from 5.1% to 4.7% because business operations slowly resumes.
Hi, I am Sundar. Today, I would like to talk about IMCO and its effect to Malaysian economy. IMCO is the short form of Recovery Movement Control Order. It was used to recover Malaysian economy while controlling the spread of COVID-19 as most of the economic sector will be allowed. It is introduced by Prime Minister on 7 June 2020 and started enforced on 9 June 2020. It is ended on 13 January 2021 as the cases of COVID-19 increased and replaced by MCO 2.0. IMCO has introduced a few restrictions and SOP which involve economy sector, academic sector, tourism sector, religious activities and events. Religious events and activities are allowed with the condition of SOP is followed. The organizer need to control the number of public during the event. They also need to record down their contact and information for tracking if the person is infected. The event which involve large number of public need to get approved from MOH. From the economic sector, most of the shop can operate at any operating hour according to its license. The restaurant also allow customers to dine in their shop. Cinema can operate at maximum capacity of 10% or 4,000. For tourism sector, spa, wellness, and flexology are allowed but with limited customer per time. Traveling among interstate is allowed without any application. In the education sector, students can back to school by phase. 24 July for students involved in public exam, 15 July for students of Year 5 to Year 6, remove classes, Form 1 to Form 4 and Form 6. Year 1 to Year 4 students will be the last batch to back to school. The IMCO success to bring some good effect to Malaysian economy. The GDP increased from negative 28.6% to 3.2%. The unemployment rate dropped from 5.2% reached the all-time high to the 4.9%. The e-wallet usage also increases and the e-commerce grows rapidly during this period. Thank you.
As my team members has presented about each stage of the movement control, therefore we can conclude that MCO have given us the biggest impact on the economy because there's totally no income within the 2 months. In the 2 months, the GDP is going down in a straight line because of the extreme strict SOP to follow to control down the number of cases. So in CMCO, government has released some sectors to back to work because this is need to slowly recover the Malaysia economy, although the recovery rate is slow because the entertainment is not allowed. One of the reasons is entertainment is one of the most important income for our country. So for the RMCO, recovery rate is a recovery rate for the Malaysia economy. It allows most of the sectors to open, but minority entertainment such as clubbings are not around. Therefore, the recovery rate is increasing faster compared to CMCO, and this is also to balance the Malaysia economy and the people's health. So based on the frequently asked question during these projects, what will happen if the MCO extended? The economy will collapse and the GDP will going down again, maybe worse than the first MCO. And also the employment rate is also increasing, and the education, because no face-to-face sectors, the education will be collapsed and exhaust. So for the bright side of what is the bright side of the MCO? So as we can see that with the MCO, the number of patients has been controlled now and everything is under control, and the Malaysian will have to learn new technology to do the profession, or such as online classes, online tuitions and everything. And also it makes Malaysia top glove companies, this chemical manufacturing industry become famous, and this will also increase the Malaysia economy. Okay, so how Malaysia need to recover economy problems? So first is politics need to do their main job, and also politicians and peoples need to follow the SOP strictly to control the spreading of virus. And Malaysians must work harder to improve in the individual skills and knowledge to save Malaysia economy due to chaos and disorder to COVID-19. So in conclusion, without following the SOP, more people will be infected and cause the number of cases increases. Therefore, the best way to save the economy is to stay at home, social distancing, wearing masks while meeting with others, and self-quarantine if you suspect any COVID-19 cases. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.